O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You understand my thought afar off. You comprehend my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word on my tongue, O Lord. You know it altogether. You have hedged me behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to you. For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How great is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would be more in number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. Depart from me, therefore, you bloodthirsty men, for they speak against you wickedly. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate them, O Lord, who hate you? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with perfect hatred. I count them my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties, and see if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. The word of God for the people of God.
I understand that you are in the midst of a transitional time in your life as a congregation, having a new chapter start with Pastor Sam Holland being here, and we wish her well and keep them well and keep them in our thoughts and prayers as they are at retreat this weekend, and I presume back next weekend as well. So, good. Before I retired in 2019 from the United Methodist Church, I was a district superintendent. So I understand traditions a bit. In our system, that is somewhat similar to being a conference minister, I think, in your system. So I was involved in lots of changes over the course of 9 years in the greater Northwest area of the United Methodist Church, which included Alaska, Washington, Idaho, and Oregon. So transitions I do get, especially in the pastoral realm, as that always is a part of life. And we live in a time of transition, especially now, as many things are in flux in our world. Beginnings and endings happening around us fairly constantly, and that is something that involves all of us. New doors close and new windows and doors open in the midst of that. Which means, in reality, that we are in for a wondrous and new adventure in life whenever that happens, whether it's in a local congregation, a church like this, or whether it's in our entire country. What does it mean to be on a new adventure together, to go back to beginnings and think about both beginnings and endings in the larger world? In light of that, and in light of the significance of your transition, I wanted to begin by saying something more personal in nature that connects this congregation with me some 70 years ago. You may not know, but actually I was baptized in this church in the mid-1950s. So it's interesting to come back to be with you this morning, to think about beginnings in faith in my life and realize that your church actually was one of those first communities for me. That led to our family worshiping at Bethel Congregational Church in Beaverton for many years. Eventually, my brother and I especially found our home in the United Methodist Church, of which our family became a part. My brother was and his wife Teka were missionaries in Brazil, have been missionaries in Brazil for over 40 years, and I served in the United Methodist Church as a pastor and district superintendent and various roles for over 30 years. So beginnings and endings, my journey of faith and our family's journey of faith somehow connect us with this place. So this feels like a fitting congregation to talk about beginnings this morning. Baptism's fundamental teachings, important to consider when we think about living in turbulence and stressful, difficult times as we are today. Think about it, don't we all have before and after moments in life? Before and after college, before and after your first job, before and after marriage or an important relationship, before and after the birth of children, before and after a significant celebration or a tragic loss. These are all times in our lives that involve significant beginnings and endings. But whenever we find ourselves starting out forging a new path, beginning, if you will, it's important to step back a bit, like we did with the 139th Psalm today, to be clear about what it is that might guide our path into a new adventure, a new way, a new transition, a new chapter, so that we make sure we're not aimlessly moving forward, wandering or rudderless, but are anchored, centered, much like we did this morning with our calming time of brief silence, to center ourselves and get our bearings before forging ahead. The 139th Psalm is a message about such things. You see, the 139th Psalm is really bedrock to Holy Scripture, not just in the Hebrew Scriptures, but in any sacred writings that proclaim the name of a God or a creator, a divine being, because these words are vivid and true about what it means to be in relationship with something greater than ourselves, to be a part of something grander than ourselves. It helps us to find and better understand the nature of what it means to believe in something greater than who we are alone. Depending on one's tradition, there are many different names for God, but what the 139th Psalm reminds us is that however you refer to God, we are a part of an amazing creation, and the mystery that is a part of it helps us define who we are as people and how we are related to each other as part of a grander, greater scheme of things. To worship a God is to feel known, to be in relationship with someone or something greater than who we are alone. We're part of something grand. The great Jewish theologian Abraham Heschel talks about this way of understanding life, and he once said, "I did not ask for success. I asked for wonder, and God, you gave it to me." Wonder is actually a great place to begin. It's a great place to begin a day. It's a great place to begin a conversation. It's a great place to begin a life, a new chapter. Wonder keeps us open, you see. It keeps us curious and questioning, which are all important ingredients in having a healthy, whole, well-grounded spiritual life and practice. In his first major work, Man is Not Alone, Heschel said this: "Our greatest problem is not how to continue, but how to return. How can I repay unto the Lord all this bountiful dealings with me? When life is an answer, death is a homecoming. The deepest wisdom we can attain is to know that our destiny is to aid and to serve. This is the meaning of death, the ultimate self-dedication to the divine. Death, so understood, will not be distorted by the craving for immortality, for this act of giving away is reciprocity on our part for God's gift of life to us." So said Heschel. Perhaps this is why 10 days before his own death, he was in an interview on national TV with NBC News, and the interviewer asked him at that time, in the late 1960s and early 1970s, if he had any word of wisdom to share with young people at that point in life. And he said these words: "Remember that there is meaning beyond the absurd. Know that every deed counts, that every word is power, but above all, remember that you must build your life as if it were a work of art." The 139th Psalm is a good place to begin because it reminds us about why this is true. It is true because we have a deep and abiding relationship with a Creator and a creation that we are a part of, which means we are a part of an enormous work of art. And if we are a part, each of us, of an enormous work of art, then we ourselves are works of art, and we are known. And we are known in that way. The psalmist says, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You understand my thoughts from afar. You comprehend my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways." Howard Thurman, the great African-American preacher and teacher and theologian of the last century, spent a lot of time with the 139th Psalm, and he wrote about it in many works of meditation and poetry. He spent a special amount of time in one of his poems and meditations on that portion of the psalm that says, "You have known me, God." And he wrote these words: with all my ways thou art acquainted, the making of plans far below the level of the daily mind, that find their way to guide the movement of the deed, habits that monitor the freshness and all spontaneity, and tame the glory of the creative act, the unrestrained joy of impulse sweeping all before its riotous rejoicing, the great tenderness called to life by that which invades the heart and circles all desires. Thurman goes on and says, the little malices, the big hostilities, the subtle envies, the robust greeds, the whimpering contrition, the great confession, the single resolve, the fearful commitment, the tryst with death that broods over the zest for life. Like intermittent shadows from sunrise to sunset, thou art acquainted. Thou art acquainted with all my ways. Here we have an understanding of faith that on the one hand reminds us of the grandeur of creation and of God's constance and presence in the world, while at the same time saying that the world is relationship, and that we and everything that we think about and know and do is connected in that beautiful creation that God has made. The words of this psalm are foundational. They're essential and represent the essence of what it means to be a person of faith. At the same time, while it is reassuring and comforting to know that God is a part of that, it is also a frightening thought, don't you think? To know that all of our thoughts are known. All of them. Who we are and what we represent is to believe that we are known by God. We are part of something precious and sacred, which means that each of us, we too are precious and sacred. It's not that life is easy in the scheme of things. All you have to do is read the morning paper or read your news feed to know that that's not the case. But that should not deter us from acting and speaking out, even when we face injustice or cruelty in life or hostility in some form. For as Michelle Obama said and reminded us before that we got in this mess some time back, when they go low, we go high. We're called to be of a different nature as works of art in God's scheme. It will not be an easy journey, but it is our journey. And God is acquainted with our ways, not just yours and mine, but everyone's. And as people of faith, we have a responsibility to act according to the ways of God. For as the psalmist says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties, and see if there is any wicked way within me, and lead me to the way of everlasting life." You've perhaps heard the expression that our tombstones mark both the date of our birth and the date of our death. But it is the hyphen in between that matters most in that equation. Because that's the time that we live our life, in between the before and the after. That's when we offer ourselves as a gift, the work of art that we are, in the great work of art that God has designed. Pope Francis, before his death, reminded us about what this is really all about and what it means. He said, "It is not enough to say that we are Christians. We must live the faith, not only with our words, but also with our actions." For me, this actually means going back to basics first, though, so that I know that my actions are somehow grounded in a spirit that matters to the larger scheme of things. How is it that I filter all the information that comes at me and all of us day by day so that I know that what I'm about is actually about the way of God, the way of the divine in this amazing world that is full of wonder and awe? A few weeks ago, I preached down at Portland First United Methodist Church and spoke about the Lord's Prayer in that vein. And in that sermon, I began by sharing this that I'd like to share with you as well. You know, we all have things that ground us in the Spirit, and one of those for me is the 139th Psalm. How is it that I filter the reality, all the information that comes this way, so that there's something on the inside saying, that doesn't seem quite right. But this does. When I was a pastor in active duty, I used to do a number of weddings, and this is the illustration I used with the folks in that sermon. I said, often I did premarital counseling with people as they prepared for weddings, and people, when they come in often with ministers to do premarital counseling or premarital work with weddings, assume that you're only going to be speaking about the ceremony and how it is that we get in and out and the words in between. I'm probably like many ministers, so that's really not how that works. And we meet several times. And one of the things I ask them, among a series of questions, to have them deepen their own sense of what it is that they're about to undertake together is, what was your family motto growing up as a child? What did you hear most about life? Because that was your early filter that led from inward to outward in life. You might ponder that this morning a little bit too. What was it that you heard most about how life is organized? What is your relationship with others and the greater world that you're a part of? And they would share those things with each other, and that often would surprise them because those weren't conversations that they had had with each other before. And I went on to say to them, you know, the thing that's interesting about doing that exercise is those grounding words, those fundamental, foundational words that we hear as family early on are the filters that help us interpret the world that we're a part of. And then I would say, you know, if 25 years from now, this won't work so much anymore, but if 25 years from now, if one of your children come to meet with me to do what we're doing here to prepare for their marriage, when they think about what the motto was that shaped their life early, they will be talking about the two of you and what you told them most about life, because that will be passed on. And so in that particular sermon, I said, isn't it interesting how it is that we want to go back as Christians in our faith to look at the foundational works, the basics, the beginnings, if you will, so that we have knowledge of both the lens and the filter that shape who we become as people, how we relate to others, what our place is in the greater scheme of things that is the wonder of God's creation. And the 139th Psalm is one of those teachings as well, because it reminds us of our place in a world that is created by a God who made this wonderful work that we are a part of and that we are as works of art. It's especially important today because there are so many that claim and teach messages that are not in keeping with some of the spirit of what it means to be a work of art in God's great work of art. There are those that are in and those that are out. There are those that are right and those that are wrong. And in a world like that, it's hard for everybody to find their place in the mixture of mottos and teachings that we learned earlier, to find a community in which we are all welcome as the unique work of art that we are. This morning, the psalmist reminds us that it is in that deep place that we encounter God and remember what it means to be a beloved part of the creation that we are a part of. We may not all see the world in the same way, but we are seen by God in the same way. Each one of us beloved, each one of us a work of art who contribute to that work through the living of our lives. It is time to start each day anew, each chapter, each conversation, each moment, with these simple words: O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. You know my sitting down, and you know my rising up. You understand my thought from afar. You comprehend my path and my lying down, and you are acquainted with all my ways.